Hey you guys, Matt Allen, Tim Little, welcome back to Tactical Bassin and welcome back to our Holiday Buyer's Guide series. As you might have guessed here, today we're talking spinning reels. So hopefully you guys have been following along. We just wrapped up the rod and reel combos portion of this sale, but now we're gonna go kind of a deeper dive into reels because they are on sale. We're gonna get more specific, and even though a lot of us have been bass fishing a long time, we're gonna try and simplify it or at least explain these reel families the best that we can, probably in a way you've never heard before, because there's a lot that goes into these, and it took us a while to figure out ourselves. So there's a lot that we're gonna talk about, and thankfully everything's on sale. All right, so here's how we're going to do this, because when you look at reels online or in a tackle shop, you know, like this, right, a pile of reels, it's so hard to know what to choose, where to spend your money. And in those combo videos that we just wrapped up, we gave you very specific recommendations at price points. But when we stop and really look at them in groups or in families, I think you're about to learn some things that have just... it took us forever to figure out. It really did. So here's the first thing I want to show you. I'm just going to point it out so that it's not a discussion piece. These are Daiwas. These are Shimanos. This is the rest of the industry as we see it. When it comes to spinning reels, we're just being blunt with you. These two brands rule the world. They build reels differently, and it is very difficult to build a spinning reel specifically. Casting won't look like this. Casting is very spread out, but spinning reels, it's difficult to build spinning reels that can stand up to the test of time. So today we have 3 reels that aren't from those two brands. We're gonna start with those because these really are standouts within the industry. They're at 3 different price points, and they have stood up where a lot of reels don't. And I don't want to stand here and act like you can't go fish other... Of course you can fish other reels, right? But what we're saying is there's hundreds and hundreds of quality reels that will work fine. But when you take a specific reel and pit it against the market at that price point, it's really rare for somebody to beat one of these two giants. That's just reality in the spinning category. That was a pretty long rant there. Do you want to add anything, or should I jump on in?
One thing, the reason that there are 2 main companies, Daiwa and Shimano, those are the only 2 that own their own factory.
Yep.
That's why they can kind of dial this stuff in. All the other reels come out of different factories. But I think once I know for me, you know, I loved this reel from Shimano, but I didn't like the feel of this reel from Shimano. But then I loved this one, and it was always kind of a like, I don't know, like, I guess I'll just go to the tackle shop and spin the handle. Well, once we kind of understood the different families and what these reels are for, it made all the sense in the world. And I think this video will help a lot of you guys kind of put those puzzle pieces together.
Once you understand what we're jumping into right now, you don't necessarily have to lay a hand on a reel in a shop at all
to know how it's going to feel.
Nailed it. All right, so 3 reels that don't belong to those 2 brands. 2 from 13 Fishing. We've got the Ascent competition, and we've got the Axum or Axum competition. The Ascent is the less expensive. The Axum is the more expensive. 13 Fishing has really taken a shot at spinning reels the last few years, and it shows. The Axum, before the competition version, they were getting there. They were headed the right direction. They were getting close. But when they did their competition drag, they've got a couple of reels that really stand out from the crowd at their price points, and it's very impressive. The other one is this guy right here. This is from Abu Garcia. Now, it's not, they have piles of reels, and a lot of them are really solid options. But when we're looking for like the gem, the true standout, Abu Garcia Xenon MGX. This is a high-end reel. This reel
is very impressive. It's extremely lightweight compared to everything out here. It's incredibly lightweight. They have done a ton. I mean, when you look at it, it's almost a skeleton of a reel, right? Everything is tightened up to get that weight reduction. And I've been really, really impressed by this reel. And this particular one in my hand, I have beat this thing to death testing durability. I mean, I have wailed on it. I've pitted it multi-species. I mean, I have let some fish pull on this thing, and it's been really impressive. So all three of those are reels that we're very, very comfortable with, and it's great to see companies reaching farther, branching out, finding those niches and filling them.
Yeah, absolutely. Competition is great for the industry, right? It creates better and better products at lower and lower price points. So, all right, so what we have here, we have the Shimano line of reels. Not every reel's in here, but the majority.
The vast majority of them
are in here. And for the most part, if you guys have followed along with our Buyer's Guide series, you've heard these names spoken on different on combos. So what we have here, and this is a really good visual of how these Shimano doesn't do a very good job of explaining. They have two different families of reels. You have your power reels. Top of the line is going to be the Stella. And then you have your finesse reels. Top of the line is going to be the Xense. So have you ever played around with two of their highest, most expensive reels and realized that they don't feel the same?
They don't feel the same at all.
Not even close. And that's what really led us to do this video, really to explain where you are at in the different price points, but more importantly, where you are at in the family. So let's go ahead and start off with the finesse family, and then I'll kind of run you through the power family. The Nexave. Now, when I say finesse family, typically what you're gonna get more of that free floating feel in the handle. Not a lot of resistance, really light, little inertia to get that spool, that handle going. It's just really, really smooth, and that's what you're gonna feel all the way through the finesse line. But again, that Nexave, we talked about that in some of our earlier less expensive buyer's guides. That is an awesome reel for finesse fishing. All these reels are meant for finesse fishing. Lighter in the hand, lighter inertia to turn that handle, and then as you go up the line, you're gonna get more and more features, right?
Right.
Okay, so next up from that is gonna be the Mirel.
Can I interrupt you really
Absolutely.
quick? Just a note, because as we take a deep dive, this can be really confusing for people. All of this will be in the video description. You don't have to take notes. You don't have to try and memorize. In the video description, like we said, there's a sale going on if you want to take advantage of that. But in the description, all of this will be in the order that we talked about it. So as Tim's going through these, we'll list them in order for you with a link straight to Tackle Warehouse where you can look at the specific features. Because if he started rattling features for you, it gets more confusing and takes way too much time.
Yeah, we'd be here for a couple days. Just know that as you go up in price point, you get less in weight, right? The reels are gonna be lighter and they're gonna have a lot more features, okay? Yep. So next up is gonna be the Mirel. You guys have heard us rave about this reel. This is probably the first reel that you really liked in that finesse line, finesse family. I know you really like that power, you know, the Stratic, the Noski, all that stuff we're gonna talk about here shortly. But that Mirel is an awesome, I'm not even gonna say entry level, less expensive reel in this family, and it works extremely well. Okay, so jumping up from the Mirel, hopefully this is making sense, having you guys see kind of where this goes from
just
there.
That line, that family.
Now we're in the Vanford line. This is the staple that a lot of guys have used for decades, for years.
Vanford's been a Tackle Warehouse bestseller like since the day it came out.
That is a tried and true reel. Again, when I say finesse, you can power fish with this. I'm just talking about the way the handle feels, the way this whole thing feels on the combo. It's just gonna be lighter than its equal counterpart in the power line, okay? So the Vanford. You wanna spend a little bit more money, jump up, now you're talking the Sustain. This was revamped, what, last year? I mean, turning the handle, I can feel the difference just in these two. It's nothing. Buttery. It is so smooth. I can't say enough good things about this finesse line. That's the feel that I like. Granted, there are some reels in this line that I like as well, but I connect better with that finesse feel, because typically I'm drop shot and I'm throwing lighter finesse baits. You know, when I'm throwing a 16th ounce Texas rig, I don't want to feel a lot of pressure in the handle. I want to see that deflection and feel that bite. I mean, you can feel it in your hand. When you go to turn that reel, you can tell, does this feel a little harder to turn than normal? And then I'm looking at that rod tip. Do I see that deflection? Is there something that ate that and I didn't feel it? And then you load up and set the hook. So I don't want to feel any resistance, if you will, in that handle turn. And you can see it's just an awesome reel. And then top of the line, at least here in the US, because there are some JDM ones that are even more special. This is the Xense. This is primarily what I throw on all of my top of the line bottom contact baits techniques, right? We teach, don't go outside your budget. Where you want to spend the most money is bottom contact techniques, right? Where you
sensitivity matters.
Sensitivity and feel matters, okay? So for those techniques on a spinning rod, I'm shaking a drop shot, I'm dragging whatever, a Ned rig per se, that Xense, and that is why that is on the majority of my high-end spinning combos. But you can see that thing is, I wish you guys could feel this. Just to compare apples to apples real quick, or apples and oranges, I guess it depends on how you say it. This is the Stella. This is the top of the line. This is an amazing reel. Completely different feel than this guy. This guy is about an ounce lighter than this guy. This is going to be more of a powerful reel. It's going to be better drag or stronger drag. But let's...
Can I do a quick recap? And then you run through the power side.
Yep.
So here's what we're hoping you take away from this. Because this is a lifetime of us buying and trying reels to realize that this is how it works. A lot of people are in a place where your local tackle shop doesn't have all of these. Maybe you don't even have a local tackle shop. So here's what we're hoping that you can take away, okay? You know what your budget is. You know if you've got 50 bucks to spend, 300 bucks to spend, or 500, or if you just want to spend as much as you have to get what you're after. If you like to drop shot, Ned rig, little strolling baits, the finessey stuff, get into this family. If you like shaky heads, Senkos, you know, those things that take a little bit bigger hook, you're in that family. Now that you know that,
price point.
As you move up the price points, absolutely there's major changes in the features at each one of these moves is worth it. It's just, where's your budget? So now you found your family by your fishing style. Now be realistic with yourself. Where is your spend? And you're good. You will, if you've ever touched a Nexave, a Mirel, a Vanford, any of these, you know what that entire style is like, and you just spend according to your budget, and you will be happy with that purchase. It is not a gamble like it always was for us.
Right.
I mean, we bought so many, who knows? I don't know why it took until now for us to do this, and why it took so long for us to find that. That information was not widely available, but I think it will make a huge difference for you. I hope it will.
And it's still not widely available. I know.
No, not at all.
You figured it out. You were on a Japanese website, basically
translating
to English. Exactly. And like light bulb, you're like, wait, this is why you like the Vanford and I like the Stratic, and totally makes sense.
Yep.
So hopefully this is relaying that to you guys.
And we're about to have a very similar talk over here with Daiwa, because things are not always clear.
All right. So now that we've explained the finesse, that finessey feel, that finessey reel, the finessey family, let's talk power for, I'll try and go through it a little bit quicker. Starting off, you have the Sidonia. This is an entry-level reel. I say entry-level, it's still a reel that's gonna last you multiple years. It doesn't break the bank, but it has that true power feel to it. You're connected to that handle turn. You feel everything that's going on. It takes a little bit more power to turn that handle, but when you hook that fish, maybe you're doing multi-species or you're fishing for bigger fish, you want a little bit more power, that's where you're gonna be in this line. So starting off with the Sedona, however you want to say it. Next up, the Noski. I know you love this reel.
Yep.
It's a reel, it's a great reel, but again, for me, it's a little bit heavier. It's a little bit more, again, it's that connective feel in that handle, which is great if you're used to it. When you're not used to it, it takes a little bit to get used to. So that Noski is an awesome reel for the price point. Again, strong drag. These things are built like tanks, right? These things right here are gonna last, but they're built to be light and finessey. These things are built to be workhorses. Next up in the line, the Ultegra. You guys heard us talk about those during the buyer's guides. Again, another great reel in this lineup. So we got the Sedona, the Noski, and now the Ultegra.
If I can jump in right there at the Ultegra, because you got to decide for you where your price point should be, right? The Ultegra, when I was guiding a ton, because I guide less now, we just don't have the time, but when I was guiding nonstop, 7 days a week, I had a very unique clientele because a lot of them are you guys. You watch the videos. I didn't have a lot of like brand new anglers. The guys who would come fishing with me were qualified anglers. Like these were good fishermen and they just wanted to experience one of those fisheries. So they were not going to show up and be okay with junk gear, right? You can't do that. They wanted to fish quality equipment. And the vast majority of the reels that my clients would fish were Ultegra. That was far enough up the power line that even clients who are typically rough on people's gear couldn't wreck them. And they were nice enough, they had enough features that I was never worried about it impacting. They could hook a 12-pounder and I'm not worried about something going wrong inside that reel and causing an issue, right? So as you're trying to decide how far up the line do I need to go, that's where I crossed that line in my own business, where I was like, there is nothing they're going to run into that this reel is not prepared for.
Now these next three reels, and I don't know why this just, I guess the visualization of seeing these reels laid out, these last three are the reels that are typically available, at least the last two, in saltwater or multi-species inshore, where these aren't. So you can understand the difference there. So next up, we have the Stratic, okay? Before we had, the Vanford. Before that, it was the CI4 Plus.
Yep.
But you hold these are two comparable reels, a little bit heavier, a little bit lighter, two great reels, but this thing is gonna have the power. It's got the power behind it. It's got that connected feel like I've talked about many times. It just feels different, but this is, now we're talking like mid, I don't even want to talk price point.
Yeah, just don't even.
They're
all on sale. That's the important thing.
We're halfway through that price point in the line, but that Stratic is an awesome reel. Like Matt said, if you're throwing shaky heads or you're throwing heavier Texas rigs or lighter spinning Texas rigs, that is an awesome reel. My son was throwing this, we were striper fishing, but I gave him a spinning rod. I put a bunch of braid on there, 30-pound braid, and he caught like a 25-pound striper, and that drag was, just screaming. So that is where these reels really shine. Next up, the Twin Power. You guys have heard us rave about that reel. This is, in my opinion, I don't even want to, it's not the best reel in this lineup, but it has a ton of the Stella features for like half the money.
It's your best bang for the buck.
It's the standout reel in this entire line, and it feels a little bit more like this. We start getting into that Stella feel, but that Twin Power, again, this is available in saltwater reels as well. There's a reason for that. It's a workhorse, powerful, but this thing is ultra smooth. This is the first, feeling all these coming through, this is the first one that has that connected feel, but also it's a little bit easier to turn that handle. You can feel the quality difference. And then last but not least, definitely not least, the Stella, okay? This is the flagship reel in all of Shimano's spinning reels. This has all of your, the Hagani, I don't even want to go into the details, but it has...
The links will have all of it.
It has all of the stuff, right? Everything built into this. And this is even more free-floating than this guy, just not as quite It doesn't have the same feel as the Xense. But where I throw this guy, big smallmouth, right? Hopefully we've all hooked those big smallmouth, those 4+ pounders, light line, and they just want to rip. They just want to peel, drag,
and turn
and
it
rip
on so fast
from on and off. It's not that the Xense doesn't have a smooth drag. It just this is built to withstand those runs.
Yep.
Right. Whether it's a fish in the ocean or a big smallmouth on Lake Michigan, this is built for rip and drag. Same thing with stripers. Again, this is an ounce heavier than this guy. It all depends on what you like, the rod you're pairing it with. That comes into play too, because you might not necessarily have the lightest rod. It's a little bit heavier, and putting a light reel makes that thing feel tip heavy, where you might need that extra ounce to really balance that thing out, and the whole package just feels better in your hands. So again, hopefully that was a real quick run through of the different lines of Shimano's, but hopefully seeing this laid out, this visualization really helps you understand where your favorite reel lands in which family and where it lands in the price point.
The other thing to understand as you move up in these prices is you're moving up in longevity. So as I'm watching Tim talk about this, I don't just own, I still have my first Stella I ever bought and my first Xense that I ever bought are both on rods that I'm actively fishing right now every day. And they feel the exact same as the day I bought them. It's not that they'll handle a screaming run from a fish when they're new. It's that they'll handle a screaming run from a fish when they're 10 years old. It's really, that is the difference maker. All right, now let's talk Daiwa. Daiwa, I grew up fishing Shimano spinning reels, flat out. That's how I started. So even though I never understood that, I was always comfortable moving through the product lines because the names were familiar to me, right? Daiwa, for me, came later. It came because Tim really liked Daiwa spinning reels, and I would always pick his rods up for this or that, and grab one off the deck. That's how I got to know them. It came much later for me. As a result, I had no familiarity going into it, and I know what it feels like to stand back and look at a whole product line, and you're like, wait, what? Which one did you say has that feature, right? No clue what's going on. And it took a lot of years of fishing them one by one, enough to get to know each one to start understanding that. But Daiwa and Shimano, in regards to the power and finesse thing, are actually very similar. They just achieve it differently. So in almost every Daiwa spinning reel, the 1,000 and 2,000 sizes, so the smaller frames, in almost all of them, those have 11 pounds of drag or something similar. Most of them, in all the high-end ones though, it's almost always 11 pounds of drag. And then in your larger sizes, your 3,000, your 4,000, your 5,000, they have 22 pounds of drag and they weigh quite a bit more. So it's more than just the size difference of the reel that creates this sudden weight increase. So in Daiwa, as a whole, those smaller sizes are specifically designed for your finesse applications, and the larger sizes are your power sizes. So a 2,000 size, which is plenty big to do everything, is very finessey, whereas a 3,000 size, which is still small enough to do everything, is very power oriented. Now, once as we move our way up the line, in fact, we'll just quickly run through the line. So concept-wise, it's the exact same thing. We're up here at the Exist, and we just trickle down technologies from there, all the way down the entire product line. And the last few years have been amazing, because as each one of these reels gets a revamp through the years, way more technologies come down, right? So it's just a matter of price point. We start down at the Revros, which down around that $50 mark is an unbelievable reel for the money. It really is. The Revros, the last generation of Revros was amazing for the money, and it got a revamp, and it was crazy. And again, we don't have time to take the deep dive of all the technologies. And I don't get that techie anyway. I'm much more feel-oriented, actual time on the water with the various products. But as you move up from Revros, we get to Regal, which got a revamp last year. They just redid that one. Feels fantastic. And within Daiwa, all of them, you'll notice this incredibly smooth, free-flowing feel. That is, yes. So when Tim and I first started fishing together, he was all about those Daiwa spinning reels. And I was all about Shimano spinning reels. And over time, we realized when that light bulb moment went off, Tim was all about, in a Shimano, he was all about that finesse family, and I was all about the power family. Now, our fishing styles have met a lot more. Now I use a lot of finesse reels, right? Fishing styles change over time. But in Daiwa, all of them are going to have that finessier vibe in terms of free floating where you barely touch a handle. I mean, we're a way sub $100 reel here and it's just floating along, right? That is what makes those Daiwas so unique and makes them such standouts. After that, we jump up to the Fuego LT at that $100 mark, an unbelievably popular reel, and for good reason. It's amazing at each step you can feel that difference, but they are a family. They're all very, very similar. From there, we go to that Procyon MQLT. We've talked about that a ton. We paired that up to a lot of different rods through the rod and reel combo videos because it is such an effective reel at its price. Like very similar like to an Ultegra, sort of in that, where that's that one where you're like, that one you could for sure put into any battle and you're good to go. So as you're deciding where to spend, that's entirely up to you. From there, we jump up, we go to the Tatula MQLT, and then the next big leap from there is when we get to this guy here, your Tatula Elite. Tatula Elite is where things get interesting, okay? I told you that in the entire family, that 1,000 and 2,000 size, they're sort of finessey. When we get to Tatula Elite, we see something that we only see in Exist. And that is that at the 2,500 size, so that like core bass fishing reel, they offer it in both. So there are two different 2,500s. One has that lighter drag and weighs less, very finessey. And one has that stronger drag, more power oriented, right there at that price point. The other really interesting thing about Tatula Elite is that you will notice that the size of the spool, let me find a good example. It's even smaller than that one. I need a smaller reel. Your spool size is a full size larger than your body size. There has been this trend in the tournament series of guys wanting bigger and bigger spools, and Daiwa answered that with the Tatula Elite. So larger spools, but those guys, while wanting all that line capacity, and they really don't want the line capacity, they want the ability to take up line quickly on that larger spool, you still don't want to be fishing a giant heavy reel, right? So when you got here, they went to a larger spool on that same size body. That is very unique. And that's why if it's in your price point and you're a Daiwa guy, it's worth the jump to Tatula Elite.
The other benefit of going with a larger spool is you get less line twist.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Now, from there, we're going to jump up a little ways. There's sort of a gap, I feel like, in the Daiwas where the next couple price points are very saltwater oriented before we get back to a reel that's dialed for both. That next one is the Certate. And we've made a big leap to get to Certate. Now, the thing about Certate is it's the one exception to the rule where it doesn't have that 2,500 that is finesse oriented. This is a power reel through and through. That's just, it is an incredibly refined, very, very powerful reel. I use this reel a lot when I'm throwing my big strolling baits. I like to, where I might be tying into really big largemouth. I might be tying into striper. I'm using it in inshore applications with some different species. It's just an incredibly powerful reel because, again, you can take any reel and pit it up against a giant fish. It's just, is it still going to feel the same on the back end?
Afterwards, right?
So I went on an Alaska trip once where I pitted spinning reels against salmon for a week and a half and had the time of my life, right? The reel was way too small for the job. But we got to the end of that trip, we're walking into the airport, and I reached into my bag, got my spinning reel, and dropped it in an airport trash can. And that wasn't me throwing money away. I knew that reel well enough to know that what I had bent inside of it could not be repaired. That reel had lived a good life. It had done all it was ever going to do, and it was retired. And that's in my entire life. That's the only time I've literally thrown a reel away. Other than that, you repair them all. It was beyond repair. But I was trying to do it at a price point that wasn't ready for that. Last but not least, you reach the Xense, which is the pinnacle of Daiwa. It is, I mean, you're mid 800s here. I mean, we are off the charts in terms of price point, but you're talking again about a reel that will feel today the same as it will feel when you hand it to your child later and they start fishing with it. It's incredible how long those high-end reels will last, but that trickle down of technology is all through the family. And again, if you are a Daiwa guy, if that's the feel that you like, understand that those smaller frames are geared to finesse. Those larger frames are geared to power, with a couple of exceptions.
Yeah, that great explanation, and hopefully this gives you guys an idea. You know, if you are a Shimano guy that loves the finesse line, you're like, oh man, I love the Vanford. Well, now you know, here's some reels in Daiwa that you might like, and vice versa, right? If you really like that Daiwa feel, just like me, once I learned that there was reels from Shimano with that same type or style of feel, I found some reels that I really liked in that line as well. So hopefully that shed a little bit of light, or at least explained it a little bit for you guys, and got rid of some of that I don't know. There's so much to, when you're reading on a website and you're reading all these different letters and numbers and you're like, what does this mean? Hopefully this helped, right? Matt figuring out the two different finesse line, the power line in the Daiwas is huge. Figuring out the two different families in Shimano is huge. I wish both companies would explain that.
Publish that in an easier way.
Because it'd be a lot easier for us consumers to understand which stuff we like, right? So hopefully that helps you guys and clears up some confusion.
Yeah, what we want you to walk away from this with is, if you own a Mirel today and you're wanting another reel and you know you want to step up, and you're looking on the website and you're like, well, do I get a Vanford or a Stratic? Which the prices are pretty similar. I don't know what to do. You like a Mirel, you're going to like the Vanford.
You're going to love the Vanford.
You just move up that family.
Right.
Way more technology. It's getting smoother. It's getting lighter, but it's going to have that feel that you already like. So now you can be much more confident without being able to get into a shop, pick these things up, spend time with them. Hopefully that helps you guys. That's what these buyer's guides are about. We don't do these because we love doing buyer's guides. We do these because you guys request them, and we are in a unique position where we use an incredible amount of gear on a regular basis, and we really can give you those fair comparisons, and we're happy to do it. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We will see you first thing tomorrow morning talking casting reels.
See you guys.